All right, well, of course, welcome Brother Jackson to our dedication for this weekend. A lot of nice activities we have going on. We hope you all are going to enjoy this program as well. I asked the congregations here in Washington to submit some questions that they thought might be interesting to ask. So most of these are not mine, but we'll just get an overview of Brother Jackson, his activities, and some experiences that we'll enjoy as well. First of all, Brother Jackson, how is it that you came into the truth?
Well, first of all, can I just say how happy I am to be here? But I know you also said that if there are wrong questions, you blame me and everybody else for the questions. But first of all, I'd just like to say how wonderful it is to be here, to help come to this part of the country and visit you all. It's always a special event when the Kingdom Hall has been dedicated or rededicated. And certainly it's always a shout of praise to Jehovah's name. Unfortunately, my wife is not well at the moment. She has cancer, so she's limited in what she can do with regard to travel. But she especially asked if she could send her love to you all here, and she's with us in spirit. So I answered your first question like a real politician. So maybe I can give you a correct answer there. So my mother got the truth in the early 50s, and so she basically brought me up in the truth. My father worked in the government as a civil servant, and he was more interested in his government work at first. But then after I was baptized when I was 13 years of age, a few months after that, my father said he liked to study, and so he shortly thereafter got baptized, and shortly thereafter became an elder, and has served as such since 1972. But just interestingly, we asked my dad afterwards what was it that caused him to accept the truth, and he said it was a circuit overseer that brought him into the truth. He'd been to some district conventions with us, he'd just taken us there, and he heard this one brother who could speak very, very well, and he was very impressed with him, and then he found out he was disfellowshipped. And when he found out that the circuit overseer was disfellowshipped, he said, this has to be different from the government, because the higher you get in the government, you're more untouchable, whereas it must be Jehovah's organization. If someone like that does the wrong thing in this fellowship, so that's what prompted him to make his stand for the truth.
Now, how about your wife? Do you know the details of that?
Yes, so her family in the early 60s got the truth. She got a couple of Christmases and birthdays beforehand, but basically the family got baptized at the time she was 4.
Okay, so how did the two of you meet?
So I was finding in the congregation next to where my wife was, so I must have had roving eyes. So it was nice. It was actually drama rehearsal, so I met her there. But I should mention, my family comes from the north of Australia, which is the equivalent of California. We have sandy beaches, wave surfing, crazy people. That's where I come from. Jenny comes from Tasmania, the little island in the south where the Tasmanian devil comes from. More like Tennessee, Oregon mix. So but my father moved down to Tasmania just after I was baptized, so that's how come we met up there.
How long have you been there?
35 years.
That was going to be a trick question. Now, as far as the privileges of services, what kind of things have you had to do with you over the years?
Well, that's a hard question to answer because I've done most things. I've done circuit work, district work, convention committees, branch committees, help with the governing body and now the governing body. About the only privilege I've never had is serving on a regional building committee. That's because I don't know how to build. I know my job has a book under the regional building committee. So that's one privilege I probably don't qualify for. But I do appreciate those dear brothers who work very hard at building.
Okay, no, as all of us do. Now, how long have you been in full-time service?
So 38 going on 39 years.
When you were in Samoa, what was some of the most memorable experiences? And also, how long were you there?
So we were in the South Pacific for 25 years. We went out when we were still young. Basically, we grew up in the South Pacific. So first of all, we were assigned to a small island nation called Tuvalu. And then so we were there 13 years, 13 years. Then 6 years we were in Samoa, and then 6 years in Fiji. But I guess one of the most memorable experiences in that area is really getting to know the people and the culture. There's so much to learn from that area because people generally still have very strong family ties. It's generally still safe to live there. So any of our pleasant memories have to be associated with the wonderful people that live in that part of the world.
Okay, how many were total time there?
25, yes.
Now, one brother asked when you were appointed as governing body, were you a part of the Bethel family? Or Bethel?
Yes, so what happened in 1992, I was appointed on a branch committee for the first time. That was in Samoa. And then in 96, we were transferred as missionaries to Fiji, and I was on the branch committee. So that meant we were in Bethel and various places there. And then in 2003, what happened, well, my wife and I were out one morning witnessing on a Saturday morning. It was one of those fantastic mornings in the South Pacific where everybody was interested, and all our return visits just wanted more and more. So we came back from this wonderful morning, and it was a rare occurrence because no one else in the group turned up that morning, so just Jenny and I were out witnessing. We both came back and said, that's what it's all about, this is wonderful. So we then went into the office, I downloaded the branch mail, and here I see there's a letter, just 2 paragraphs saying the governing body has decided to transfer Brother Jeffrey Jackson permanently to New York. His wife will be given appropriate work. Next paragraph, we await Brother Jackson's reaction, warm, Christian love and greetings. That should just change everything. So that's when we were welcomed to the U.S. Bethel in 2003.
So coming from there, coming to New York City, there had to be some cultural differences.
Yes.
What adjustments were made?
Yeah, we don't sleep on the floor anymore. I guess the overriding feeling, like it was a test in the sense that, well, let me put it this way. My mother, who, as I said, dragged me up in the truth pretty well, and she was a pretty tough mother and still remains such. What happened when I got that letter, and then when we told my parents about it, my mother called me and she said, Jeffrey, your father and I know how much you love the city. And I'm there. At long last, she understands me. Then she said, but we know that you love Jehovah more. That was a good reminder, because when you go out as a missionary and you're told, make it your home. So we didn't speak English for 13 years. We became part of the community. We helped 75 people into the truth, so they're like our family. Now all of a sudden to have to leave that and come somewhere else where you now have no history, you have no connections except the democratic connections, that can be quite a dramatic thing. So I guess the overriding feeling we had at first was guilt. Being in a place where you go into a shop and you say, do you have any wine? And if they said yes, then you might venture to say, is it red or white? Now, you didn't ask anything beyond that. Is it Merlot, Cabernet, or whatever? That's just forget it. I mean, if there's wine there, you're fortunate. To come into the land of plenty where there's such a variety, we felt really guilty because we know what our brothers in other parts of the world don't have. So it took us a while to get over that. We were gradually getting corrupted. We call that assimilating.
Well, now, one brother wants to know, what was your first reaction when you were asked to be on the governing body?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So what happened, by that time, I was a helper to the governing body. I worked with the teaching committee, and I had done so for a little over a year. Once we were pulled out of the missionary service, obviously, I wondered, why on earth did they bring us to America? Because we felt we were busy and we were needed where we were. So then when I was asked to be help with the governing body, I thought, okay, well now I understand why I've been asked. I had no thoughts, honestly, no thoughts at all that I would be asked to be on the governing body. And then one day I was asked to give some counsel to a member of one of the governing body members. So I went up, which I thought was like a suicide mission. But I was careful enough to go up and do it. So I went up and offered this brother some counsel, and he accepted it. And then, as I was about to go, he said, if you don't mind, can you just wait a minute? And he gave me a letter which said the governing body was inviting me to become a member of the governing body. Well, I was just flabbergasted. I mean, that was such a shock. So the brothers suggest I go home and back to Patterson, where I was at the time, and pray about it, meditate on it. So I wrote a letter back basically saying I didn't think I was ready. I said, I don't think anyone could say they were ready for an assignment like that. But all I could say is I'm willing. So if you want me to go back and care for 10 or 15 brothers in a small island somewhere in the South Pacific, I'm willing. If you want me to be a helper for the company, I'm willing. Whatever you want to do, I can try, but I don't think I'm ready. So 2 weeks later, I got the letter saying I was appointed. Obviously, didn't read my letter.
What about your wife? What was her first reaction?
Well, let me just say, in the letter appointing me on the governing body, it had in bold, italics, underlined. You can't do much more in Microsoft Word than bold, italic, and underlined. It said, do not tell your wife under any circumstances. So 6 weeks later, the announcement was made. So for 6 weeks, I had to live with this knowledge that I was appointed on the governing body. My wife at that time said, now will we change the curtains? Can we just hold off on this decision? Can we do this? So anyway, so I wondered myself, why did the brothers make such a point of not being able to discuss it with me? And the answer was that, you see, it was her first lesson to learn that she is just still one of the Bethel family, so she would hear the news the same as everybody else at that time. And that was very appropriate. But what happened is, as I said, she's been quite sick, so she doesn't always come to breakfast in the morning. So I knew that the brothers told me the announcement was going to be made on Tuesday, so the night before I said, well, do you think you can come to breakfast tomorrow morning? Oh, yeah, I think so. So I woke up early and like I always do this, do the washing up and get everything ready in the room. Anyway, so I got into breakfast and they didn't make the announcement. Right, well, that's what I wondered what had happened. So what had happened, the brother was the chairman, Brother Losh. No one had given him the announcement to read. He thought it was going to be on Wednesday. So the Wednesday morning I had to get up again and wait for my wife to come down. And because she was having chemotherapy, sometimes you have a coughing fit because of the problem with the throat. So just as they were finishing the program, she has a coughing fit, so she goes outside to wash her hands. And she's coming back up the steps and she's waiting to see when's a good time to come back in, and that's when they make the announcement. So she said she started crying, and but anyway, she's come to good.
All right, now we did ask too that some of our young ones ask questions, and I won't do it with quite the enthusiasm some of them did. But first of all, one of them wants to know if you are a baptizer. And I said, "You mean you want to baptize people?" And he said, "Yeah, he wanted to know, is that something you do?"
Well, in the past, yes, as a missionary, oftentimes I had the privilege of performing the baptism. Usually in the South Pacific, we baptize people in the ocean. And that really feels like a real baptism. Like some of the sisters, they're pretty big girls, so baptizing in the ocean, putting down in the water is okay, but bringing up again is a little bit of a challenge. So that is, see, so when you put someone large down in
All right, now one wants to know, do you ever give talks at Assembly?
Yes. Usually I have to give 3 talks every district convention.
Okay, quite busy. One hand, well, this one has to be translated. Mother had to ask the question. The young one asked, why are you a bodyguard? She said, you mean governing body? He goes, yeah.
Why am I a governing body member? I'm still asking the question.
And I have to do this one with the same vigor that the young boy did. He goes, what does he do?
Now, will I ask, what did I do? Actually, it's maybe a good opportunity just to try and briefly tell you the role of the governing body. Obviously, you realise the governing body has various committees, 6 committees. So I had the privilege of serving on the teaching committee and the writing committee. So maybe just to give you some idea of the type of work that I have to do. My main work every day is in the writing department, where I do editorial work, which could involve writing or it could involve editing material that's already written, or involves reading everything. So the 3 brothers who are in the writing department who are on the governing body, that's Brother Barr, Brother Swain and myself. Like all the governing body members, we have to read everything before it's printed. But we also not only read it initially, but we have to read it a second or a third time before it's printed and actually sign the pages for it to be printed. So a lot of work that we deal with is reading. Like everything we print, we have to read it at least 2 or 3 times. And then, of course, it's a matter of writing as well. Teaching committee is involved with the district conventions, circuit assembly, special assembly day programs, so we have to write those. I teach at Gilead and at the Elder School, the Traveling Overseas School and the Branch School, so that involves doing up in Patterson. So on Monday afternoon we have the writing committee meeting, Wednesday is the governing body meeting, Thursday is the teaching committee meeting. So that's basically the work that's done, which is a lot of, I thought I was busy until I was on the governing body.
But now, one friend wanted to know is there any of those friends that were in the 2009 yearbook that you know? And I mentioned, you talked to you earlier, you know most of them.
Yes.
Who is, what can you tell us any experience about any of them that you know?
Well, Brother Wagner, who's mentioned in there, is a missionary from the late 50s. He's telling me a funny story, and if you've looked at the yearbook already, you've probably seen the picture of a Samoan house, or a whare. So it's open-sided home. So Brother Wagner came to the States in, I think, 1958. He went through Gilead. So the brothers did an interview like this with him. And so the American brother said, is there anything different about Samoa? You know, like houses, life and so on. And Brother Wagner says, yes, Samoan houses don't have doors or windows. So the American brother says, well, how do they get inside? Because he forgot to mention about walls. Which brings me to the old missionary question. How do you get undressed in a Samoan house? You know the answer? Very carefully.
All right, very good. So, also, are there any enjoyable experiences that you can relate in working as with the governing body or on the governing body?
Well, I can only say from the bottom of my heart what a privilege it is to work with the 8 other brothers. They are such wonderful brothers. It's amazing. Each one of us is totally different in personality. Absolutely different. You probably wouldn't get a group of more different brothers as far as background goes. So you probably realize Brother Morris was a Vietnam vet. He was a medic in Vietnam. Brother Bird, I think, was a boxer at one stage. We've all got different backgrounds. And yet, working together, it is amazing to see the harmony. None of the brothers avoids getting egg on his face when we have our discussions. There's such freedom of speech that everyone speaks frankly. We all get egg on our face at times because we make suggestions that aren't accepted. But to me, one of the most exciting things is to see how decisions are made by the governing body. And if I could just backtrack a little on the writing, it's the same with the writing. Even if a governing body member writes a study item and submits it to the writing department, it is not spiritual food. Once it's submitted to the writing department, there are 90 different steps for checking, proofreading, each governing body member checking, reading, researching, and so on. Then when it comes out the other end, it's spiritual food. Now, the same is true with the governing body meetings. It's, like we say, the angels direct our work, the preaching work, and we all believe that. But each day you go out, you don't necessarily see angelic direction. But every now and again something happens and you go, wow, there must be angels involved with that. Well, it's the same with the governing body meetings. Many of the things that we have to decide are quite mundane, or perhaps it could go one way or the other. But the number of times that we have to discuss something, before we go into the meeting, we've all read the agenda, we've all done research, and maybe we even know what each one thinks about what should be done. And yet the number of times I've seen the discussion go, and all of a sudden something kicks in, and the whole discussion goes another way, and then the decision is made which is totally different to anything that we had in mind. And a number of times I've walked out from the governing body room and said to the other one, what on earth happened there? And, the Holy Spirit. That to me is one of the most exciting things to see that happen.
Now, on the way down here on the long trip back, you told us a few stories, and one I was hoping you'd relate to friends about the town of Tabasco. I think they had a visit.
Yes, this is in Mexico, Tabasco. The town, the city is Villahermosa. So last year I had the privilege of going down to attend the district convention there. And just briefly, perhaps summarising it, it was amazing. The government provided 3 large facilities right in the centre of Villahermosa for the brothers to have use for the district convention, and they provided them free of charge. Because they said we do such good work. So on the Sunday morning when I woke up, the branch committee brother who was with me said, we've got a little situation here. He said, I've had a phone call from the Minister of Religious Affairs, and he's asked if he can have breakfast with you this morning. Okay. So we had breakfast together, and he told me there how much the government appreciated the work of Jehovah's Witnesses, the relief work that was done after some of the flooding that they had in Villahermosa. So then he said, I hope it's all right, but the governor and his staff are planning to attend your talk this afternoon. Is that all right with you? Okay. I'm thinking I better be careful what I say, but anyway, yes. So at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the military came with their flak jackets and submachine guns, and they stood outside the convention facility, and all of a sudden this array of limousines pulled up. The governor and his staff, and the Minister of Religious Affairs and his staff and family all came, and they sat right across. I forget how many, there must have been at least 20 or so of them. And of course we had bodyguards in the background. The media was there because now became a spectacular event as far as they were concerned. So they stayed for the last talk and expressed appreciation for it afterwards. Then it was funny, the next morning we were flying out of Villahermosa to go to another part of Mexico. When we get to the airport, here's the Minister of Religious Affairs along with the media, all waiting for us. And then he made an official presentation to Jenny and I, giving us gifts from the governor in appreciation for our visit to Tabasco State. So as I said to the Bethel family, we were starting to like royalty, and then we came home.
Now, there was something to do with the name Tabasco too that you found out.
I thought you'd forget that. So I asked the obvious question, is this is a strategy? is this where they make Tabasco sauce? And, oh, no, now this brother didn't know too much about it, but anyway, he says to me, no, they make it up in Mississippi or somewhere like that. So I said, oh, and they don't make it, no. I said, well, why do they call it Tabasco sauce? And he said, could you sell it if you call it Mississippi sauce? So in my report to the Bethel family, I said that. But if I had $1 for every email and photograph of the factory in Louisiana, I didn't realize it was such a sensitive subject for the Bethel family. You better get your food right.
Now,
Sorry. Okay.
All right, now, while you were at CP, you and your wife had a certain project that you worked on. Many of us found very interesting.
Yes, well, actually it started when we were in Tuvalu in our first missionary assignment. Tuvalu is the sort of place where there's no restaurants, no picture theaters, really nothing much to do there other than preach. So, because we had become part of the community, we noticed that there was no dictionary in the language and no grammar books. So over a period of about 20 years in our spare time as a little project, my wife and I first of all produced a dictionary in the Tuvaluan language and then later a grammar book in the Tuvaluan language. So it took a while to produce, but now that's the dictionary that's used by the schooling system in Tuvalu. So they can't say the Jehovah's Witnesses haven't done it anymore.
Okay, so what prompted you, or why did you write a dictionary?
Well, what happened is there were no books on the language at all. That they had the Bible that was already written, but there were no books about how to learn the language. So we basically went in. We had to try and work out how to learn this language. So what we did for a start was we learned 20 words every day and try and get them memorized. So we wrote up lists of these words. So after several years, we had books and books full of these words. So then when we started to translate the Watchtower into Tuvalu, we realized that we may not always be in Tuvalu, so we thought, well, if we start to organize these words so that if new missionaries come, then it would be easier for them. They wouldn't have to go through all that we've gone through to learn the language. And then also, as we were training other translators, we thought, well, they need something to help them as well. So basically, we didn't have in mind doing a dictionary at first. But by the time we had thousands and thousands of words all organized, someone came up with the idea, well, the government would like, if you could, to produce something so that everyone can get the benefit of it. So that's where it came from.
So here, if a magazine, the Watchtower, or any other magazine really was to quote and say, the Webster's Dictionary says this, in Tuvaluan language, it would say what?
The Tuvaluan dictionary says our dictionary.
Oh, the Jackson.
Yes, the Jackson dictionary. But the Watchtower would never say the Jackson dictionary.
All right. One sister asked this, what was the biggest test for your loyalty, and how did you overcome it?
That's a good question. I guess, just going back to that point, being reassigned to America, not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with America, but, you know, really the Pacific was our home. We were close to our parents, relatively so, 6 hours by aeroplane. So then all of a sudden, to be asked to come to the other side of the world permanently, not often does the organisation use the word permanent, and to be further from our parents than we've ever been before, that was, I'd say, a pretty big test. So, as I said, my mother's reminding me that I love Jehovah more than the city. And then also, one of the local sisters called me up when she found out, and she said, well, think of it this way. They can take the boy out of the island, but never the island out of the boy. And that helped me too.
Okay, very good. Now, in talking to you on the way up here too, you said there was something in the circuit assemblies there, on a stage like this, that you don't have to do here.
Yes, in the South Pacific, generally men wear kilts or dresses, skirts, whatever you want to call them. We call them sulu or lalala. And if you think it's wrong, Look at the Bible teach book. Toward the end, you'll see a man in a dress. That's from Fiji, by the way, one of the circuit overseers. So when you're a circuit overseer, you're organising a circuit assembly or a district convention. Part of it, going through the walkthroughs, you have to remind the brothers to sit properly.
What would you say is your favorite place that you've traveled or assignment?
Oh, that is so hard, because every assignment has something special about it, and it's usually involving the brothers, because wherever you go, the brothers are wonderful. Every time you see a witness, you see a miracle, because they've had to come into the truth, they've had to face the odds of going against the culture, all the pressures of Satan. So to me, that's probably one of the greatest privileges. I mean, other than our relationship, obviously, with Jehovah, but being able to go to different countries, seeing how brothers in all sorts of circumstances have been able to remain faithful. Some cases, you've got a young Indian, because I think in Chicago they've got a Hindi group, haven't they? And the Indian society generally is very, very materialistic, very focused on money and so on. So to have young Indian men and women in Bethel, that's about the ultimate in failure for any young person as far as the Indian culture goes. No children, no money, and working for free. We'd be very not impressed. But to see young ones like that willing to do what they can for Jehovah, and then you go to other places and have the opportunity to have an arm around an African brother who's been tortured, horrific things done to them. And when you meet brothers like that, it's just such a privilege.
Okay, very good. Well, now we have a couple of questions about first of all, your favorite, or one of your favorite maybe, stories or experiences with Brother Barber.
Okay. Brother Barber. Well, there's so many stories about Brother Barber. The one I like, just before he passed away, he was at lunch at Bethel, and this brother came up with a video camera and said, Brother Barber, I'm studying with a man, his name is Harry, and he's 90 years of age. Would you give him a message? So the video camera starts up, and Brother Barber looks at this video camera and he says, Harry, you better hurry up. And see him in some way, you'll appreciate this. So he was going to lunch one day. I'm not sure if I can say to this audience, I think we can. So anyway, our brother had just been appointed as a circuit officer, so hyperactive. And so he goes up to Brother Barber. Brother Barber, I know you're on the way to the meal. Look, I've just been appointed as a circuit officer. Do you have any words of wisdom for me? What can you say to a brother in 2 minutes as you're walking along? Brother Barber looked at him and said, drink good scotch. He deserved that answer.
I know there's probably not just one on this one. What about Brother Sidley?
Oh, Brother Sidley. There's so many stories about Brother Sidley. You've heard the one in the elevator where with the young brother and he punches him in the stomach. And the young brother said, you're not supposed to do that, you're in the governing body. He says, who's going to believe you, son? But the one that affected me was when I first came to America and met Brother Sidley. He had invited several of us to his room for a meal. So I was a little bit of awe of Brother Sidley because I'd heard so much about him. So my goal that evening was to remain invisible. I thought if I go there, nobody knows I'm there, no one remembers I was there, success. So halfway through the evening, I was measuring my success rate as being very successful, when all of a sudden I heard this voice, Fiji. That's where men wear dresses. Yes, Brother Sidley, that's true. Brother Jackson, do you wear a dress? I said, yes, I do, Brother Sidley. My God, what do we got here? So I know I made quite an impression. I'm sure. Then a number of years later, I had my first chance to make a presentation in the governing body. At that time, I was involved with training translators worldwide. And so I was sitting in the governing body room, sort of feeling this is a very special occasion where I have a chance to make a presentation in the governing body. So I'm relishing this moment. And as the governing body walks in, Brother Sidley walks straight up to me and he says, Fiji, that's where men wear dresses. I realized my credibility was below zero. And then just before he passed away, we had a meal together, and I was telling his wife these stories, and she was laughing. The next thing I hear, Dad turns to my wife and says, yeah, and he still walks funny too. But he loved me, I know he loved me.
Okay, one more brother we'd like to your input on is Brother Barr.
Yes, Brother Barr, a special, wonderful person. I can't say enough about Brother Barr. We work of all the brothers in the governing body, he and I work very closely together because we work in the writing department together. He's 96 years of age. He still works a solid 8 hours every day, plus some. He takes work home as well. He is totally with it as far as knowing what's happening in the department. He knows what's happening more than I do. And last year he was the chairman for the governing body. Like some of the other brothers in the governing body, when they reached the 90s, they attended the meetings, they gave us input, but day-to-day work they couldn't do. But Brother Barr still was chairman and does all the normal work you'd expect of someone that's 30 years of age. But the thing perhaps impresses me the most with Brother Barr is that we'll be standing together maybe in a foreign country and brothers will come up, they haven't met anyone at the governing body before, and they'll say to Brother Barr, we've never met someone of the anointing. And his immediate response in a genuine, heartfelt way is, remember please, I have to be faithful. Now, if he needs to be faithful at 96, the rest of us are going to try extra hard. Because he's the best Christian I've ever met. And yet, he has that humble attitude of he needs to continue to be faithful.
Thank you. Now, we're going to take just a few minutes to ask if there was anyone that had any questions that maybe you thought of that you'd like to ask. Brother Smith, right over here. I might have to repeat it.
How many languages do you speak?
That's another good question. Jenny and I feel comfortable with 5 languages. The other ones are all Pacific Island languages, Samoan, Tuvalu, Fijian, and Tokelau. We can witness in a couple of other languages, but not get ourselves out of trouble.
You ever have trouble overcoming some of the things you had to do?
Yes. If you look back a few years ago, there was an article from Fiji on balolo worms. So they're the worms that come up from the coral. They're not the nicest of things to eat, but we had them. Recently, I was in Kyrgyzstan and they gave me the sheep's head. As the all eyes and everything looking at me. So as a guest of honor, that was my share. So sometimes there's a challenge. I do watch the ASL DVDs, and for 2.5 years. That was my privilege of working with translation services and ASL. So for us, when I first came to America, it was just a dream that we might one day get to watch them. in ASL. Now to see it in so many sign languages, and then we wouldn't have even thought of the possibility of the Bible in ASL. But now to have the Bible in ASL and in a number of other sign languages, it just shows how Jehovah is blessing the whole world.
Is there a favorite meal or a favorite dessert that you like?
As you can see by the shape of me, I like most things. In Australia, we tend to eat meat and potatoes. That's a pretty standard meal for Australians. In the South Pacific, we eat a lot of rice. And in Samoa, they have taro and palusami. It's very difficult to describe, but if you can imagine the green leaves of the taro plant mixed with coconut milk, the cream, it's a very rich and yet beautiful food.
What did you learn from the Samoans that we can benefit from spiritually?
Samoans are very respectful people, even in the world, and yet at the same time, it's a little bit like working with the mafia, in the sense that if you do the right thing with the mafia, they look after you. If you do the wrong thing, you're dead. In Samoa, there's a lot of violence, and there's a lot of threat of violence. Like physical discipline of children is very, very strong in Samoa. Just to give you some idea, 60 Minutes ran a program about in New Zealand. The Samoans were having great success with reforming young people. So they went for 60 Minutes to look at it, and this Samoan lady says, well, how do you get these kids to reform? Oh, well, if they do something wrong, we get all the kids together in a circle and we kick the tire out of them. So Samoan, now, having said that, please, we love Samoa and we feel totally safe in Samoa because we understand the Samoan way. So the thing I think I learned from Samoa is always to treat everybody with respect. In Samoa, it can mean your death. For example, a judicial committee hearing with someone, we should always treat everybody, even if they're going to be disfellowshipped, with respect. But even more so there, because if you make a mistake, you may not tell about it. So that respect for other persons, I think, is very, very valuable for all of us.
Are you a zone overseer, and what do they do?
Yes, I am a zone overseer. Zone overseer does like a circuit overseer's visit, but to a branch. So it can be a very demanding job. For example, my first zone visit, I went to Tahiti, New Caledonia, Fiji, Solomon Islands, and Papua New Guinea. But you see, a zone overseer in maybe 5 days of visiting has to try and talk to nearly every member of the Bethel family, and talk to every mission. In Papua New Guinea, there's over 100 missionaries. So you need to talk to them. Then you have to look at the accounts in the branch, make sure everything's audited and everything's above board. Then look at the field service randomly, look at the letters that go out to make sure everything's all right. Meet with the branch committee, look at how things can be improved. So usually a zone overseer is working about 16 hours a day on trips.
Martin. Brother Ferd was a district overseer in our circuit, and Brother Lett, special pioneer in our circuit. Do you have a story on either one of them?
The answer is they've got more stories on me. So I wouldn't even dare tell a story on them. But I do remember, the governing body we work so well together. Nothing is sacred. We work so well together. When I say nothing sacred, as far as people being reserved about discussing anything. I remember one morning Brother Hurd was doing morning worship, and that morning everyone was supposed to finish work at 20 of 12. so that we could prepare for the Gilead meal. So Sam was doing the morning worship, so he had a little announcement there, but instead of just reading, he says, "I tell you, overseers, at 11:40, let my people go." So that was a Wednesday morning. Well, as soon as we got to the governing body meeting, the first thing Tony Morris says, "Sam, let my people go." Was that Martin Luther King or was it Moses? And Sam says, it was Martin Luther King who thought he was Moses. So we have a lot of fun. There's a lot of laughter that goes on. As I said, no one gets away with anything, and it is such a beautiful thing to see how the brothers work together. Well, so just on that, if I can explain it. So one time our meeting was finished, and we were just sitting there ready to go, and I must have made some stupid comment like I often make. And all of a sudden they were on to me like a pack of wolves. You know? Who would believe you? You wear a dress. And then someone said, "Yes, you wore a dress on family night." "Oh, how come you're here? You wear a dress." Then all of a sudden I hear this little voice, "So do I." And all eyes turn to Brother Palm. And they said, "You wear a kilt?" "Yes, I do." Of course, I had to humbly point out in Zechariah chapter 8, verse 23, it says, 10 men out of the nations will take hold of a skirt of a Jew. He said, so there's only 2 of us that wear a skirt.
Brother Sanchez.
As busy as brother as you are, and you mentioned a lot of your responsibilities, what about in the local congregation? Do they allow you maybe not to do so much?
Yes. So if you can just imagine, if you had a circuit overseer based in your congregation, well then, he wouldn't be able to do much in your congregation because he'd be away visiting other congregations. So it's a bit the same with us. Because we're traveling a lot, the governing body looks after the whole world. And that is our responsibility. But having said that, like the congregation of Brother Lev, Brother Slane, Brother Bar and I are in, we have 43 elders. So they're very generous. They're willing to do a lot of the work that we do. But we take our turn in conducting the congregation Bible study, doing service meeting parts. I conduct the meeting for field service with our group maybe once every 2 months. So we do try to be as much a part of the congregation as we can. But the facts are that it's just like a circuit overseer is worried about the whole circuit. Well, the governing body has a wider range.
I was just wondering if you can remember the talk that you gave in front of all those Mexican government officials.
Well, it was the last talk at the district convention last year. And I should mention that if you know anything about Mexican culture, which I'm sure most of you do, so here the governor says, well, in the last talk we thank whoever has given us the facilities. You know how we do every year? Thank you. So it was actually the governor who gave permission for us to use the facilities. So I said, well, we'd like to thank the governor who was sitting there. So all the brothers applauded, and he stands up and goes, not exactly the reaction I was after. But one thing I knew, he didn't get any votes.
Okay, maybe just a couple more here. Brother Shire.
What is the most outstanding experience you had on a Bible study?
Yes, maybe some of those I will tell on the weekend, but one of the experiences, well, as I said already, each time someone comes into the truth, it's an outstanding experience. But we had the privilege of studying with a politician, at one stage a very prominent politician in the South Pacific, and he eventually came into the truth. He's serving as an elder now. And just to see the changes in his life, he before had a little beard and was very much like Castro in his viewpoint on politics. He just hated the British, very anti-British. So just to give you an idea about that, when they handed over Tuvalu to become independent. So the British was a colony before. So the British set up a little parliament house, ministers and so on, to imitate England. Well, they made a rule that everybody in Parliament House has to wear a suit and tie. But it's so hot there, they didn't have air conditioning back in those times. So it was such a ridiculous British sort of rule. So this brother, whose name is Isa, at that time was a minister, a very prominent minister. So he walks into Parliament House with no shoes on, shorts, open neck shirt. You know, because the British were, I say, chap, what are the natives up to? You know, but you see, he had enough support in Parliament to change the rules. So to this day, in that country, you can wear whatever you want in Parliament House. Well, he came into the truth, but later his younger brother went into Parliament and became the Prime Minister. So after many years, one day the Prime Minister walks past King Hall on Sunday. What does he see? His brother wearing a suit and tie giving the talk. So on Monday, he calls him and says, "Brother, you are one hypocrite. I mean, why would you wear a tie and a suit now when you wouldn't wear it before?" His brother came back with a good one-liner. He said, "Some things I do for Jehovah I'd never do for a white man."
Well, thank you very much. Brothers and sisters, no doubt we'd like to send our love back to Bethel, but also to his wife,